Hey, this is Fred Ottman, Tugboat Typhoon, the Shockmaster, the B-A-double-D Big Steel Man. And the card is subject to change. Watch it.
Welcome back to the show!
Welcome back to the show!
And now, your hosts of the Card Subject to Change podcast, the For Frequency's Sake Tag Team Champions of the World, the Wizard CZ, and Never Wrong Nick Bull.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another exciting edition of the Card Subject to Change podcast, the podcast by the fan for the fan. Of course, I am your host, Never Wrong Nick Bull. Thank you so much for joining us. Pardon the voice, long wrestling weekend, details down the road. So happy you're here, episode 205. We've got a new guest in the studio this week. More on that in a second. I got to tag in my tag team partner here. We are co-champs of the For Frequency's Sake Tag Team Championship Network. He is the beat that makes this thing go, man. He is the one. He is the only. He is the Wizard CZ. Wiz, how you doing, bud?
Man, I am doing pretty good. I was dying last night, especially on the drive home from Waterloo. But I'm feeling good. I feel better today. I'm rested. I'm excited. And, of course, we have to let the people know about our sponsors before we can really get into this shindig. We are powered by Lopez Pizza, built by Durham Remodeling, and colored by Ryan Allison Tattoo. And, of course, you see above Nick's shoulder the QR code for the For Frequency's Sake Toys for Tots Bowl. Sign up, join our league. We've got a few spots left. Trying to get as many people as we can. But we'll talk on that later, maybe.
Yes.
Maybe not.
Is this copyrighted?
I don't think so. I don't think it is.
No.
But I'm doing that for our guest because this is someone I've been watching for a little bit now. Someone I'm excited to have on and talk to. We're going to bring in the Death Dealer, and I hope it doesn't give us the touch of death by having this gentleman on our show here.
Hey guys, my hands are clean tonight, so we're all safe. I think I dealt plenty of death this past weekend, so I think we're safe here.
Thankful for that. Very thankful for that.
His hands are clean. He's presented that as evidence. He's assured us everything's okay. I was hoping the Death Dealer was taking a day off today, and just we all would take it easy in here tonight.
Yeah, for sure. I'm happy to be here. This is actually one that I really wanted to do since meeting Chris here. I feel like it's been about a year since we met in Waterloo, and
Just about.
So yeah, I'm happy to be here. I'm always happy to get on a podcast and spew whatever BS is on my head, and hopefully it sticks, and hopefully some of it matters. And yeah, so yeah, this is kind of where I'm at in my life right now.
What matters is that you're here, and we're glad you're here. And every time we get a first timer in the studio or on the horn here, I gotta ask my question. I always ask them, Death Dealer, why professional wrestling? What was it for you that just like, oh my goodness, I love this and I'm going to keep watching?
It always starts like with anything in my life. It's always started based with family. My father got me into racing. He got me into football. He got me into wrestling. And somewhere in between 99 and 2002, my dad kind of fell out of watching wrestling. He's like, oh, there's way too many people running in and all this gimmicky stuff. I'm like, that makes sense. It's fair. At the time, I was probably about 8 or 9. So I'm like, well, there goes a tradition, but it is what it is. But I don't know. I kept watching, and I grew up with some guys, a couple referees, Chris Hansen and Derek Myers, or Daniel Myers. My apologies. We grew up together, and we'd have Monday Night Raw watch parties every week. from like 2009 all the way through 12. I stopped watching wrestling from like 06 to 09-ish. And by the time I came back, it was a completely different ball game. They went PG. There was no more blood. There was limited cursing and all this other stuff. But man, I got the itch, and I just went to, I wonder what pro wrestling is around my neighborhood. And sure enough, there's Impact Pro Wrestling 15 minutes from my house. So yeah, I couldn't be any luckier, and they had a school. But Death Dealer signed up for the military instead of going to wrestling school. So I went and did that, and TS Aggressor said, go do that. I don't want to split your training and then have to retrain you on stuff when you get back. So long story short, I came back from basic training after graduating and training in field artillery. I came back and trained and met Frankie J and James Jeffries were the first two that I met when I got training my first day. And Ugly was my primary trainer. Was lucky to get ring time with TS Aggressor, James Jeffries, Justin Decent, Johnny Fitness, Ricky Love, Big Picture, Marshall Scott. There's so many guys that I feel like shouldn't be forgotten. And I will always talk about those guys and bring their name up whenever I have the chance to. But I'm blaming them for who I am today. So for better or for worse, that is kind of the background. And I got the name, the Death Dealer, from basic training. Each platoon had different names for them, like the Dirt Dogs or War Dogs or wherever they were all lame except for ours. Ours was sick. That's why I kept it as my wrestling name. So yeah, so Death Dealer was born about like 8 years ago, I guess. Now I'm getting old real quick, and yeah, and we're off and running now, and I'm more than happy to put the face paint on and hit the siren whenever I see fit.
Awesome. Yeah, I wanna back up a little bit. You talked about, and almost everybody I know, from whether they're fans, whether they're wrestlers, has a story like this where they lapsed in their watching. So I haven't asked this to anybody, and I should ask it more often. What was it that brought you back?
So I was dating this girl for a while, and I had this stack of video games, and I was looking to trade them in and get the new Madden. You know how GameStop is; they give you 60 cents on the dollar or whatever it is. And I traded them all in, and she's like, "Wow, you had all these wrestling games." I'm like, "Yeah, I did." And this is kind of towards the end of that relationship, but we split, and I'm like, just thinking, like, man, I just can't get wrestling off my mind. So I'm like, let me turn it on, see what's going on. And I talked to my buddy Chris Hansen, and he was still into it, and I kind of fell back into that group and was able to just get hooked again. And yeah.
Wait, going back and talking about, when you first started wrestling and staying with it, what people, what matches, moments, what sticks out to you from that time in your fanhood?
The early part would probably be like, my first memory is like, it's just a Steve Austin promo, and that, like, I don't think it gets any more intense than that. And it was at the height of the McMahon Austin stuff. Then there's always like the stuff with the Undertaker, and there's always the stuff like, I remember the Big Show choke slamming Kurt Angle off that platform trying to save like Torrie Wilson or something, and just blood pouring out of the back of his head. That stuck with me. So thanks for scarring me, WWE.
Sure.
So
Sure.
yeah, there's just so much that, like, now that I'm going back and like rewatching like all the Monday Night Raws, and I never grew up as a WCW household, so I'm kind of going week for week between WCW and WWE, and
Okay.
seeing new stuff. And Also reliving, getting the nostalgia of old WWE, and it's like, oh wow, this is about the time I started watching. This is cool. Or finding new characters that I never got to experience when I was a kid. Like Adam Bomb is one of those guys that I'm just like, that guy's sick. He would have been awesome today.
How did they swing and miss with him? Because to me, it's a big guy. He's got the look. He can go in the ring. And I know the gimmick is cheesy and trashy, but that was 94, 95. That was just the new generation era. So, man, they really swung and missed with that guy. I thought that when that guy came out, 14, 15-year-old me thought, wow, that guy's cool, But
you imagine a
swung and
repackage of that guy in like 99 or 2000, just a little bit darker and a little more edgy. And that'd be really cool to see.
I don't disagree.
Nonetheless.
And being able to feud with a Kane or an Undertaker. And gosh, that would have been neat. It's like, why didn't they do more with him?
Yep.
You hit home with me when you're talking about going back and rewatching some of the old Nitro, some of the old Raws. I'm in the early part, I should say, of a Nitro rewatch, and I've been thinking about slipping in Monday Night Raw, kind of picking up where I'm at. I'm in early 96 right now. So I'm thinking about picking up Raw and just kind of going back and forth like you've been doing. But so far in your backtracking and your rewatching, what's been your favorite era?
As far as I'm kind of stuck in the Attitude Era right now. But I feel like there's an awkward period right after the Alliance stuff.
Yeah.
But then they find their footing, and then it takes off. Like in-ring stuff just goes through the roof. And it's the story of Raw, and then the wrestling skill on SmackDown is just incredible stuff. I think once everybody's able to integrate the good WCW guys that they wanted, and they find their footing and everything like that, and 2002, I would say 2003, that's kind of I feel like that is the era, because you had the best of the best then, and they're all you hear interviews, they're all buying for the same spot. So yeah, I mean, it doesn't get any better than competition to me.
How awesome would it have been if they had waited to do that invasion angle with the Alliance until they were able to get the Ric Flairs, the Hulk Hogans, the bigger names, or if they were able to get them right away? How that the landscape of pro wrestling would be so much different if the invasion did not happen the way it did.
Well, even if you think about it this way, where does the NWO go? And are they aligned with WCW? Or do they, since they are WWE guys, do they back them, or do they say screw them both and we're taking over? But yeah, I've been bouncing ideas off the wall for years. I'm sure we all have with our theories and
daily in my head.
And then the dream matches, they just are there, and some of them didn't happen, and maybe that's for the best. Sometimes things aren't meant to be, and that's okay. And you would think that a Goldberg Brock Lesnar match in 2002 would be awesome, but
I will counter that and say the one dream match from that scenario that needed to happen that never did was Sting versus The Undertaker. Sting versus The Undertaker.
I agree.
It's sad that it never happened. It could have. They could have manifested it when Sting came back, but instead they threw him at Triple H, which I guess with the whole DX NWO angle, it makes sense. But at the same time, give the people what they want, right?
Yep. I agree. Yeah, the biggest missed opportunity in wrestling is those two going at it. I mean, you could also throw in Goldberg and Steve Austin, but their styles were never similar enough, and their personalities were never similar enough. You're just giving them the eye test and saying that they're the same guy. But I think Austin and Hogan would have been the big one. I think that'd be bigger than Rock and Hogan, but I always thought Austin was the bigger star out of the two.
Yeah, at the time he was. I mean, The Rock has made himself into a bigger star now, but more on the Hollywood side of things than on the wrestling side.
Yeah.
But no, I agree. Austin was the bigger star at the time, and that's where it should have been, in my opinion. I think the Hogan and Austin would have been a fantastic match.
But the question was always who's winning, and like you get Steve, you get Steve Austin, who's willing to walk away from the Brock Lesnar match. Grand, there's no build to it, and he has his reasons for that, and everything with Hogan saying that doesn't work for me, brother. So
yeah,
but go.
He said, "Hey, CZ." He says it too.
Yep.
We say it all the time to each other. I mean, it's just. I think that's pro wrestling canon. I think every wrestling fan says that at one time or another. That's
Yep.
not
For
gonna
sure,
work for me,
for sure. Yeah. Daily in every locker room you go to, there's always some joke or something that works for on any occasion, or even at the day-to-day job. Oh, you want me to work overtime? That doesn't work for me, brother.
Now, I'm going to need you to walk up to Jason Prentice at the next APW show and just say that for no reason.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I think...
While we're dealing with the technical issues, this is the Card Subject Change podcast by the fan, for the fan. Of course, powered by Lopez Pizza, built by Durham Remodeling, and colored by Ryan Allison Tattoo. We have the Death Dealer in studio from Absolute Pro Wrestling. Thankfully, he's got the day off, so he's not dealing death today. So CZ and I are in good shape. I am never wrong, Nick Bull. He is the Wizard CZ. We're both coming off
big. We're all coming
weekends.
off big wrestling weekends.
We're all coming off wrestling weekends. We'll get the Death Dealer to talk a little bit about his weekend. I'm interested in getting him more to talk about, who would the Death Dealer have been? Is Taker too obvious of a guy to assume that the Death Dealer would have been a great match with, or a fantasy matchup? So I'd like to talk to him a little about that when he gets his audio issues resolved.
Can you hear us?
Yes, you guys got me?
Yeah, we got you.
Yes, we do. We do.
An awkward angle for the rest of the show, if that's okay with everybody.
That's okay.
That's okay. That's okay. Whatever works, man. Whatever works.
I'll kind of do the same thing. We can all be at awkward angles.
We'll all do this together. We'll get this done. We'll be all right. I was telling CZ the question I was going to ask when we got back, and that is it too much? Is it too much to assume that Undertaker Death Dealer is the match that you would always want, or is there somebody else in that spot?
I think Death Dealer and The Fiend would be my go-to. I think the mind games and the match with two big guys that I think Undertaker would tower over me, that guy is just so good, and I even think today it'd be such a bad decision for me. Not saying I would,
but a good payday. But a good payday.
I would shy away from the Undertaker, but I think The Fiend would have been my go-to, and ever since, I always say, I'm just a hodgepodge of so many people I've watched growing up. And when The Fiend came out, I'm like, I could integrate some stuff from his character into the Death Dealer. I don't wrestle with the mask on. I think it's just the explosive movement that you get from Bray Wyatt and that power that he has. The intensity that I get is from Steve Austin. The moveset, majority of my moveset is from Razor Ramon. So I named my son after him. Big time Scott Hall fan. I quote that guy daily. So, and then just
I wish you would have said you were the biggest Scott Hall fan sooner, because I think he is undoubtedly the coolest wrestler
I
in
say so
wrestling
too.
history.
Yeah,
I was hook, line, and sinker on him being Cuban. I mean, he pulled it off. Nobody questioned it. Nobody questioned it. And if they did,
right. Yeah.
I didn't hear it.
Who's going to talk to Scott Hall about that?
Oh,
Yeah.
What a cool dude! I wish I could have gotten to make.
I met him once in Orlando, and I'll tell you this much: I'm in line because we went to WrestleMania 33, and we went to WrestleCon, and I'm like, my main goal is to meet Scott Hall, so let me make a beeline to Scott Hall's line, and there's probably a dozen people in front of me, but the line builds behind you as you're going along. And I'm thinking of, like, I grew up in a town of 500 people, and I had a really good childhood, but the one thing I looked forward to the most is seeing Scott Hall or seeing Razor Ramon on my TV, and seeing that guy just do the toothpick flick and everything like that, and throwing his arms out, hitting people with the razor's edge, tossing people around like they're sacks of dirt. And I'm like, man, you made my childhood. I'm thinking, like, I'm going to say all this stuff to him, like, just be very appreciative of who he is as a guy. And I don't get starstruck. I mean, I've met some pretty high up people in professional wrestling. But, like, I had nothing when I got up there. I got nothing for Scott Hall. I'm like, this is the coolest thing that I could do, and I got nothing for him. And I had him sign my Scott Hall DVD. I'm like, you know what? There's gonna be another opportunity. He'll be up in Minneapolis. WrestleMania is coming to Minneapolis for the last dozen years now, so he'll be up there eventually. And then, he gets those. He breaks his hip and goes to the hospital and wrecked my day that day. So, yeah, it sucks that I didn't get to tell him any of that, but I'm sure he gets it all the time. And just listening to interview after interview with him, and my favorite story with him is how he picked on Roddy Piper for not wanting to lose clean to Macho Man in WCW. He's like, we got Hogan to lose clean to you from the sleeper, and you can't lose to Mach? What, are we too close to Portland? Like, just, I love dropping the what, are we too close to Portland line? Like, it's just, yeah, he's the best. Like, yeah, so cool.
He's one of the main reasons why I started rewatching WCW, is because I've been slow to get there, but I'm excited to see him show up and the formation of the NWO. And just that first appearance, you know who I am, but you don't know why I'm here.
And you know what? He was never he's the first guy to be there for the NWO. But who's the face? Is it who's winning all the titles? Is it Scott Hall? Is it Kevin Nash? Is it Hulk Hogan?
Well, I didn't watch those Nitros to see what Hogan was doing. I watched to see what Hall and Nash were doing. Right? Like when it was NWO time on Nitro, you know that time. And I wanted to see what the hell Nash and Hall were going to do and how cool they were going to be doing it.
And Scott's the one that was putting Chris Jericho over when he didn't have to. He got in trouble because he's like, well, wouldn't it make sense for me to lose to Jericho and then beat him on Sunday to build more anticipation for that match? Or like, that's where his head's at, though. Like, when his mind is on wrestling, it's just like there's nobody better.
I always you brought up something that I forced myself to watch Triple H's induction speech. I say forced myself because of the length, not because I didn't want to watch it, but being as long as it was, nobody wants to sit through an hour-long induction, even for, well, maybe the Tribal Chief does of the For Frequency's Sake podcast network. He's the biggest Triple H fan, DJ, that I know. But he told a story about them being in a car ride, the Clique being in a car ride, and Scott Hall would come in and be like, let's not talk business. And then right as soon as he said that, he starts talking business. His head is always in the game. His head was always in the wrestling game.
Yeah.
And I love that.
Yeah. And I know Damian Priest, I think he said, no, Omos. I think it was Omos who said his first WWE match was produced by Scott Hall. That's like the coolest thing ever. Other than sharing a ring with them or being, able to have a conversation, it doesn't get any better. He said that you have power in this business when you don't care or you have all the money. And he just never cared. So, but when he's out there, there's few better than Scott Hall.
And by far one of the most talented people who should have held a world title, whether it be in WCW or WWE. That title right there should have been in his hands.
Yep.
On more than one occasion.
Yeah. I agree. But it is funny, you talk about work rate and stuff like that, and people are like, oh, he didn't have the work rate. And my question is always what is good wrestling then? It's always subjective to everybody. Is it the storyline? Is it the character work? Is it the ring work? Is it the technical skill?
I think it changes as you age.
I agree. I also think that's I could go out there with a Zack Sabre Jr. We're not going to work a Zack Sabre Jr. match, but it'll be a good match. I mean, or I could go out there with somebody my size, and it could be a good match, and we could match styles. But I think the flexibility on if you can get a good match of anybody who wants to work any style, I think that's a testament to that talent.
You're right, because there are so many styles. There are so many shapes and sizes. There are so many different backgrounds in this, and it's fluent. It's always changing with this business, and I think that's a great way of looking at it. I'm glad you put it that way. I hadn't looked at it that way before.
I always say the only technical wrestling about me is that I'm technically in a wrestling ring.
That right there is one of our clips that's going out after the show. I love that.
See, that would have been great to wear if you were in a that's a t-shirt right there. You just made a t-shirt. And two, that would have been great to wear against a Dean Malenko, a guy who prided himself as a technician. That would have been
Well, I don't have it with me, but I'm a great chain wrestler too. So
I took the
we got gimmicks galore here, man.
I took the graphic out of the studio already because I want to prep for promoing next week. But if you go on our socials, you can see this young man holding the chain in the graphic that we made to hype the show. So yeah, very good chain wrestler.
Very good chain wrestler.
I think that's a good time to take a quick pause because we do have to talk about the Toys for Tots Bowl a little bit. So we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back with more with the Death Dealer in just a minute, so stay tuned.
Football season is just around the corner, and once again, For Fantasy's Sake is running its annual Toys for Tots Fantasy Football Leagues. Don't miss your chance to be crowned the best fantasy football player in the Quad Cities. The For Fantasy's Sake Toys for Tots Bowl is loaded with great prizes and even better local celebrity participants, ranging from professional athletes and news personalities to your favorite FFSQC personalities. To sign up, just visit For Frequency's Sake on Facebook or Twitter and follow the links.
So Boss of the Plains, the One Call Man, is the WXW Unified World Wrestling Champion. And you're listening to Card Subject to Change. Happy 3-year anniversary. Cheers to you.
Welcome back to the show.
I'm back. No,
You've got that stuck in your head. We'll
After
tune into the
Mick Garrett,
kick out for more on that.
We'll get
But
more on that for sure.
no, man, I feel like we're off the rails.
Welcome back to the show. Welcome back to the show. This is Card Subject to Change, the podcast by the fan, for the fan, of course, powered by Low Pies Pizza, built by Durham Remodeling, and colored by Ryan Allison Tattoo. Never Wrong Nick Bull, joined by the Wizard CZ, and we have the Death Dealer in studio here. We've talked a lot about your fandom, and that's why we love bringing people in, into the studio and talking about that. We'll talk about you finding out, at APW, Absolute Pro Wrestling, was only 15 minutes away from you, and that they had a school. Take us down that road.
It was Impact Pro Wrestling.
Yes.
They're
I'm sorry, absolutely Impact Pro Wrestling. I'm sorry. Yep, I get them all. I get those two mixed up since I see them in Waterloo.
Right. Yeah, with two kids, it's hard for me to keep my stuff straight too. So,
and as you get older, it's not going to get any better.
I don't plan on it either. But Impact Pro Wrestling had a school. I grew up in Burt, Iowa, and the school was in Algona, Iowa. And like I had mentioned,
okay.
I was coming out of high school. I talked with Troy Peterson and Travis Shellington, TS Aggressor. Had a conversation about training and the cost and what it would entail, and if you're not 18, you need a consent. But I went off to college, tried that for a little bit, and always came back to wrestling. So I also needed money, so I joined the military. Went in January of 2012 and got shipped off to Fort Jackson, South Carolina, which the company that I went to basic to doesn't exist anymore. Then about 50 days in Oklahoma and started my training. I handed TS the money up front and my first payment, and I was in there the next week. Took my first bumps with Ugly and was sore, but was so willing to get good at getting a solid foundation for wrestling. And I wanted to focus in on getting my bumps right, getting my steps right, hitting the ropes right. I remember having bruises around my rib cage from hitting the ropes. I think we were still using cable ropes at the time in IPW, and just so eager to get on any sort of show. But it took me a while. Some guys grasp things quicker or have stuff, a total package to offer quicker than I did. And when I came out, I was in black trunks and black boots, and I was in the military, so I had a buzz cut, and I was trying my best to be the local Steve Austin, and it was not working. But that was most of my training experience. You see people come in, try it, leave. You see so many people with so much more experience than myself than the trainers who are training you come in, and sometimes there's trainers that can't make it, but there's always a great replacement. And TS Aggressor is always somebody that I still listen to this day on my matches. If there's any sort of feedback, there's always the time of day for TS Aggressor.
So you mentioned starting off as the local Steve Austin. Right. Talk about the transition from that opening match of your career into the Death Dealer? Was there a moment where it just clicked in your brain as to what you wanted to do and what you wanted to be and how you wanted to do it?
So I've been doing this for 13 years now, and I think I mentioned that I've only been in the Death Dealer for about 7, and in between that uh, T-Move Steve Austin period and the Death Dealer, there was the Playboy Ray feeling. I
Okay.
came out in black and white tights with the Playboy bunny on them, and I was um, gyrating and being Rick Rude, um, but not with the Rick Rude body, and it just was not getting better. I had decent matches. I this is kind of where I cut my teeth and figured out because I got to wrestle like James Jeffries a lot. I got to wrestle Marshall Scott a lot, and it was my match with Marshall Scott is when I was like, dude, you gotta get your act together. Like, um, I know Chris, you're on that fitness journey, and I get it, dude. Like, it's hard to get going. It's hard to stay motivated.
Big
But
time.
I watch myself bump and feed for Marshall Scott, and I'm like, I'm yelling at the TV. I'm like, get up, and I'm just not like snapping to my feet like I should. I'm like, if I hit this point of 300 pounds, I at least need to take a break from wrestling. I'm taking that out of my life until I get this under control. And then I know this is a roundabout way of getting to the Death Dealer, but this is all part of it.
No,
And
you're fine, man. This is great.
just trying to figure out ways to get better in the ring. And like I wrestled Latin Thunder a handful of times, and I love Latin Thunder, and he's always been so. He always gave me such praise for my timing, and I think that played into today. Um, but it is these recognitions, these honest moments to myself, and doing like the evaluation matches over the Hall of Fame weekend with Jerry Briscoe and Jim Ross and other guests who were sometimes involved and sometimes not. But it was mainly Jim Ross and Jerry Briscoe, and they would tell me, "Hey, you need to lose 20 pounds," and I'd come back and I'd lose 5, still not cutting it. And it's just like, dude, nothing's working. We hired a personal trainer. I think I finally started getting my act together, and it's just that near wrestling career death experience, if I can use that term, is that what really amped it up. And then the Purge movies come out, and it's just like, well, let's go watch these. And we went to the theaters for the first 2. I'm like, I feel like this could be a character. And it's just the siren, it's just the purgers who are, putting on the masks and the face paint. They're not doing fun stuff to good people, but it's just like another thing where it's like you hear like Chris Jericho, he takes so many inspirations from different outlets of media. And I'm like, this is worth a shot. And I get one of those purge masks that light up, and I send it to Troy Peterson, and he and I kind of hash this out of what this could be. And I didn't have the name yet. Um, I was tag team champions with AJ Smooth, and we had our fun run of not to name drop, but we got to wrestle against the likes of like X Pac and Eugene and Harry Smith and Wes Briscoe, and we lost the titles to Wes Briscoe and Malice, and just never could find our footing back. But once we were getting to a point where okay, there needs to be something happening here, And then we started doing these vault shows of Collins and just little tweaks here and there, and then trying to find like, okay, how should this character react? How should this character move? And this is just me at my house, just walking around like a psycho. And it just, I had the masks. I had masks with like opponents' names on them. And then it's like, Troy's like, hey, why don't you paint your face? Because it'd be a little lame if you took the mask off and it's just a guy. I'm like, that makes sense. So, and then trying to figure out what works for face paint. I use body paint, and then Ugly hooked me up with some decent face paint that's been working for me. And then, like I said, sitting at home again, going through stuff for this character and trying to think of moves, match fragments, and all this good stuff. And I'm like, Unbroken Rayfaring does not. I could make it work, but day of the show where I'm supposed to debut this new character, um, I go up to the ring announcer and I say, "Hey, call me the Death Dealer, Ray Fearing," and he went with it, and it stuck. And then a couple months later, I'm thinking back to my past again. I had this buddy who we just had this like, I don't know if you guys know Key and Peele very much, but like they're just there's just this silly bit where they're like intent like silly intense moments, like his girlfriend's questioning him about something like a questionable text or something, and you can hear his heartbeat in the skit. So me and my buddy would kind of do that, just like tossing the football around, like, and I'm like, you know what, I know that Sammy Callahan kind of has that interesting beat to his clap. I'm like, maybe I can make a heartbeat out of a clap, and that stuck, and that works. And it just little fragments that got together. And that first night when I came out as the Death Dealer, I used to come out to Pony by Genuine, and you had um, a fragment of that song playing, and it cut, and then started with my new song, and then I come out with the mask, and I just hear this reaction. Like, I couldn't believe there was like two kids crying. Like, it was the coolest thing ever. But like, I I don't know. It was just, I take the mask off and it's the face paint, and it's just this shocking from it. I think it would be something like if Rick Rude would have been the Fiend. I think that's the kind of big stage comparison that I can give to you. But going from that to that, and such a shift as a from a heel to a baby face was so, I don't know, therapeutic, and it felt rewarding now that I can wrestle the guys like AJ Smooth, Big Picture, a lot more because of that switch and the motivation that I've had since then to not only just come up with new things for for the character, but for the match. So then now I can do the Razor's Edge as a tribute, um, and thank goodness I'm relatively strong because I can get a lot of guys up for it. But doing a lot of power moves to just give nod to a bunch of guys who I just watched growing up, and that's really what the dream is for me. But long story short, like, that transition was so fun. Coming up with a character was so much fun. And I'm so passionate about the Death Dealer as a character. And I feel like that comes through in the ring. And I feel like that's why fans just gravitate towards me because of that. And I try to be as genuine as I can be outside until that siren hits. Then it's game time, you know. So it's then I'm looking to rip somebody's head off. And unfortunately, like Casey Jacks was my last opponent, and I took him for a ride in a mud puddle in Pocahontas. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at today.
What you talk about how the siren hits and you are in go mode. What do you do before a match other than like getting your face painted, getting yourself ready? What do you do? Do you have any rituals, any superstitions going into a match that you get excited for, or that gets you excited for going in the ring?
So back in March, I mean, I go on tangents a lot. But back in March, I had my match with Solomon Tupu, and that's a match that I've been itching for. And I think I went out first. Yeah, I went out first, and I'm standing at the curtain. I'm reminding myself, I trained hard for this. I'm like, you trained so hard. You train this will go well. You trained so hard for this. You deserve to be in this spot. And it's just that I need to reassure myself a lot of the time. Yeah, other than that and thinking about my family, my kids, my wife, like that's really what it is. So it's just getting that mindset, and sometimes it gets dark, and it's like that guy is standing between me and my kids, and I'm going to rip his heart out to get back what is mine. So
I love that. I love that. I got some goosebumps. Not to steal from The Rock, but that that kind of mindset, it fits so well for who you present yourself as in the ring. It does. It really does. I love it.
Death Dealer, where can people find you on social media?
you can find me on Facebook, the Death Dealer, and then you can find me on Instagram at the Death Dealer _RF. Those are the two platforms I'm the most active on. I have a TikTok. I think it's at the Death Dealer, and I'll post clips of matches there too. And it's nothing but for my own enjoyment. But if you find me throwing guys around cool, then yeah, that's the place you should find it.
Hell yeah. Well, you got a new follower. Absolutely. That's cool. And that's social media has something that's changed this industry, sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse. But I think in this case, when it's much easier, it's better to get the word out there. You got social media now, and fans, not really the fan clubs anymore, but they can follow pages, know. So I think that's when social media and wrestling come together and things, happen good. There's a lot of bad, but that's a good thing,
I'm always trying to look for ways to leave wrestling in a better spot than I found it. And I go around and I like to ask people what can be done to raise the value of professional wrestling in the public eye, because it feels like we're kind of the redhead stepchild of, like, I don't know what you guys feel what would need to change, or what could we do that could be such an easy switch here and there. Because I feel like wrestling could be always better, and I don't like going to fair shows and having people scoff at what we do. It's not that I get offended, but it's like I get it because they're just ignorant to what it is. And more often than not, I say, hey, just watch the show, come back to me and tell me an honest opinion of it, and give it an honest chance. And because I feel like if you give this an honest chance, it's easy to fall in love with. So I don't know if you guys have any opinions on what the wrestling community could do as a whole to make this better.
One of the reasons I'll kind of carry off of that. One of the reasons why I love doing this show and having so many indie talents on is because it gives them a platform to promote themselves. With the advent of social media, I wish more people would be active in promoting themselves, whether they're cutting a promo for an upcoming match, whether they are hyping their own matches and posting old stuff of theirs. I think everybody needs to have a bigger presence on social media because it's going to get their name out there more. That's just me.
I love that.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, if you're not promoting yourself or not getting yourself out there, people aren't going to find you, right? And that's the way I look at it. I'm kind of in the same boat as Chris, but I look at it from this side of things. When you're reaching out and trying to get people to come onto a show or come on and want to talk about wrestling, I don't know. I think the misconception when we ask people to come on is, we're going to have people come on and ask them a bunch of, dirt questions and stuff like that. We just want people to come on here and talk about their fandom and how they got into the wrestling business. That's what we're here for. So getting wrestlers getting themselves out there is a big deal.
As Nick would say, we're just a couple of old heads talking wrestling for an hour at a time.
Yep.
If you could go back and talk to your younger self and give him one piece of advice for starting his wrestling career, what would that piece of advice be?
Learn about nutrition. I think I'd be in a lot better spot. I've had guys tell me, hey, you'd be here if you got your nutrition in line and if you got your body right. Like, get your nutrition. You love the ring so much, you're going to have that. You're going to be fine in ring. Get your nutrition in line. First and foremost. And then other than that, just try to enjoy more often than not. Because the things that if I could tell my younger self, the things that he would do in wrestling, he wouldn't believe anyway.
That's fair. We are getting close to that hour mark. I know we still have a few more minutes left. We talked about your socials. If people want to come watch you in the ring, where can we find you in the next few weeks?
Next few weeks, I'm in Columbus Junction on the 23rd. And then August 2nd, I'm at the Cassuth County Fair in Algona. And then August 30th, I am going to be in Waterloo for Absolute Pro Wrestling.
I'll be at that show. I can't speak for my tag team partner yet. His schedule, we don't know his schedule, but I'm going to try and drag him there.
We're currently negotiating with Vandy.
That's
right
fair.
Excuse me. We're talking with Jason, trying to get me in there, and we'll see.
Honestly, if he doesn't show up, I'm fine. I can do this show without him. He knows it. No, I'm just teasing. He's
not lying.
No.
He's telling the truth.
I would not do this show without you.
No.
But no, I think I've enjoyed our conversation. I love having you on. It was a great talk. I want to, if you're feeling froggy on the 31st of August, we're celebrating our 3rd birthday. I'm going to plug some things now. This is that time of the show where I give some cheap plugs. If you want to come down to the Quad Cities, or if you're in the Quad Cities, we will be at Kavanaugh's in Rock Island on July 31st for our 3rd birthday party. I know that we're going to try and have a cake there. We've got some prizes, and it's a wrestling show. Someone's going to go into the cake, Nick Bull, right?
I think the odds-on favorite's you. I think the fans want to see you go into that cake.
Well, you're probably right, but I don't think that would do well for my fitness journey.
Yeah, but we're thinking about ratings.
Okay.
Not that.
We got to get those. We got to get those quarter hour ratings up, don't we?
That's right. That's right. That's
I
right.
probably just tanked them for the last 54 minutes or so.
No.
Not at all, dude. Not at all.
Next week, when we come back, we are talking with the gentleman from the Rejects podcast. We're going to treat that kind of like a panel show. We're going to come up with a topic to discuss. That is next Sunday at 6:30, our normal time frame. Of course, we'll be back this Wednesday with our short form show, The Kickout. We've kind of teased a little bit. Nick and I were at various wrestling shows and events over the past weekend. Excited to talk about that on The Kickout. But any final thoughts, gentlemen, before we completely put a bow on the episode?
I'm just glad the Death Dealer wasn't working today. It was nice to get to know him, and because probably the next time I see him, he will be working.
We had the Death Dealer on the show, and nobody died. That's a good thing.
We're not off the air yet.
Well, okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
I better press
Don't
that button
jinx it.
before somebody keels over.
Don't jinx it.
Oh man, thank you so much
you
for
know-
being a part of the show. It has been a pleasure having you on, and you are welcome back anytime you want to shoot the shit with us about wrestling.
Sure. Yeah, I'd be more than willing to be open to that. I'm always willing to show this side of me and not have to be the Death Dealer 24/7. But yeah, this is always fun for me. I love doing anything that pushes my reach of to new audiences, and I love meeting new fans, and I love going out in front of new crowds. That's one of my favorite things about these fair shows. A lot of people don't remember who I am, so I treat every show like it's the first time they're going to see me. So, and I'm always down to talk some wrestling. That's for sure.
Hey, us too. That's what we do. That's
That's
why we're here. Yeah. But that's going to wrap things up for this edition of Card Subject to Change. Thank you again, Death Dealer, for coming on. We appreciate you being part of the show. We are, of course, the podcast by the fan, for the fan, powered by Lopez Pizza, built by Durham Remodeling, and colored by Ryan Allison Tattoo. For my tag team partner, Mr. Never Wrong, Nick Bull, I am the Wizard CZ. We'll see you Wednesday for the Kickout, and right back here Sunday next week for another episode of Card Subject to Change.
This has been a For Frequency's Sake Podcast Network production. For more great content, subscribe to For Frequency's Sake on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter.